Welcome to Home Biz Tax Talk. My name is Lysandra Everett. I am the Home Biz Tax Lady, where I help home business owners win the tax game. Home Biz Tax Talk airs Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish. And when you tune into my show, you're going to hear about topics that are important to the home business community. However, the question of the day is, what happens if I miss this deadline? What happens if I don't file my taxes by October 15th? Okay. What are the consequences? So there's two main consequences. There's the failure to file penalty and the failure to pay penalty. Now, the failure to file penalty, this is generally the steepest of the penalties, okay? This happens if you don't file by the deadline or by the extension deadline. So that means if, let's say, you're supposed to file by April 15th, right? Because that's generally when tax day is. If you don't file your taxes or file a valid extension, you will incur the failure to file penalty. Now, if you file an extension and then you don't file by the extension deadline, then you will incur the failure to file penalty. And that goes back to April, okay? That doesn't start with October. It goes back to April. Now, the failure to file penalty is normally 5% of the unpaid taxes for each month or part of the month that the tax return is late, okay? The penalty starts accruing the day after the tax filing due date and will not exceed 25% of your unpaid taxes. So you take what you owe, multiply that by 0.05, and that's going to be your failure to file penalty. I also remind you that penalties, the interest, it accrues and is added daily, okay? So even it says month or part of the month, but know that that interest accrues daily. So every day your interest is getting interest, and every month your interest is getting interest, all right? So now, if your return is more than 60 days after the due date or the extension date, the minimum penalty is the smaller of $135 or 100% of the unpaid tax. So what that means is, let's say that you owe $150, okay? Then your failure to file penalty will be $135, all right? But let's say you owe $100. Well, then your penalty will be $100. So you would owe $200, okay? So mind you that penalty is added to what you owe, all right? So now let's talk about the failure to pay penalty. All right. Your taxes are due. Your tax liability is due on tax day. The extension is to file your paperwork only. It is not to pay your taxes. So this is why I tell you, even if you can't pay the whole thing, if you know you owe, you need to send something. All right. So that the failure to pay penalty is 1/2 of 1% of your unpaid taxes. So you see how the failure to file penalty is 5%. The failure to pay is 1/2 of 1% of your unpaid taxes, and that penalty applies for each month or part of the month. Again, daily. The interest is daily. Okay, it adds up. So right now, if you have not filed your taxes, okay, and you don't file by today, and if you owe, all right. Now, if you're getting a refund, you can just shut off this live broadcast because this does not apply to you. If you have a refund, you have up until 3 years to claim your refund. Okay. And then if you miss that 3-year deadline, your money then becomes property of the United States Treasury, and they thank you. And they have kept plenty, okay? But if you owe, all right, and you don't file by today, you're going to have the failure to file penalty. If you have not paid your taxes, you're going to have the failure to pay penalty. Now, if you've got both penalties, then the maximum you'll pay per month is, you'll owe is 5%, okay? Now, this accrues up until you will not owe more than an additional 25% of your tax bill. But depending on your tax bill, that 25%, that can be real steep. All right. So, here's the thing I want to say about filing extensions. Okay. Is, a lot of times what happens is people get to the April 15th deadline, then they file the extension, and then they go back to sleep. And this is not a good practice. And the main thing is that, filing today for instance, filing today, you are not giving any kind of room for any kind of hiccups, any kind of rejections or anything like that, right? Because, because really anything can happen, even during the regular season. Whether it's claiming dependents, somebody goes to sleep, the IRS flakes out, whatever. The fact is that you don't give enough time for hiccups to happen. And this is just poor planning. Okay. So if you find yourself in that position, okay, file your taxes today and then start working on next year's taxes so that you're not in this constant same boat again, because it's just not a good place to be. And when you're constantly racking up these, penalties and interest, that math adds up, you guys. And the last place you want to be is in debt to the IRS, because the more you're in debt, the more you're going to pay, the more penalties, the more interest you're going to pay. So for today, if you have not filed, you need to file your taxes, even if you can't pay the tax bill, because that additional 5% is going to add up. And if the IRS is going to work with you, you have to have your taxes filed for them to even pay any attention to you. Okay. So that's it. So again, if you are in an affected area from the hurricanes, which, it shows cause as to why you can't file, then, you have until the end of January to file your taxes if and only if you have a valid extension. So if you didn't file on April 15th and you didn't file an extension and you owe, this additional time really does not apply to you. Okay. So, so when it comes down to filing extensions, if you know you're going to get a refund, the only way to know that is really if you're going to do the math. Okay. But if you know you're going to get a refund, then you don't have to file an extension. I still recommend that you do, because just in case your math is wrong, we don't have time to play those kinds of games. Okay. But if you know you're going to get a refund, no, you don't have to file an extension. I highly recommend that you do. However, if you file an extension, don't just go to sleep until October and then just expect magic to happen, because there are lots of people that are filing extensions and you just don't want to get yourself caught up. That's all I'm saying. Right? Just don't get caught up in that. So that's it for today, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to Home Biz Tax Talk. It's the last day. And I got people waiting on me, and that's just life. Okay. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, we air Monday through Friday, 9:00-ish, and you can tune in here to get your questions answered about your home business taxes. All right. Have a great day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.